Dia mati lagi. Nah, ada. Hilang-hilang. Ya, itu jaringan. Ini bisa pakai air enggak? Oh iya, so ada. Di muka sekjur. Sekjur. Kalau di kampus, so sekjur. Beetle. Jaga-jaga.
Merdeka apa?
Merdeka Selatan.
Itu Medan Merdeka. Apa yang untuk Merdeka Selatan? Oh yang itu kalau ikut yang tutup ke Ormawa, kamu nggak perlu KKN? Iya, maksudnya begitu. Itu.
Coba jaga-jaga yang misalnya DP jaringan, DP wifi.
Oh, ini yang akan daftar apa itu?
Yang Sumerilan.
Yang akan daftar apa?
Tinggal mau share tuh. Ini suruh live share. DP sum ini tuh. Ini dari red cam. Oh ini tuh. Ke sana kah? Iya. Kan nggak perlu begini terus. Jadi boleh zoom yang keluar di situ, yang pada saat presentasi itu presentasi keluar juga di situ. Dia kalau apa dia running ulang kan?
Iya.
Masih ke saya off dulu ini. Ini kan sementara presentasi. Nggak, dia presentasi ini. Saya mati dulu tuh sana dah. Ada presentasi ini duplikat atau extended? Mungkin ada di sebelah sini. Ya. Coba saya ke sebelah kanan mana teh?
Mana ini?
Jadi itu ada di sebelah ini panas saya ini ada di sebelah sini itu. Jadi ini kalau ke sana keluar, nah, itu dong ya. Nah, kalau escape coba dia. Jadi ini jangan extended, mesti duplikat. Coba display dong. Sebab ini kalau presentasi kasih menyala, dia mau keluar di sebelah. Jadi kalau
Ini
kan
boleh.
oke, sekarang dia semua presentasi tuh, dia mau keluar ini, tapi ini dia juga keluar di Zoom. Bisa mati di sini suara.
Sudah, saya dulu.
Selamat pagi Bapak Ibu sekalian. Hari ini kita akan mengikuti seminar yang akan dibawakan oleh Bapak Paul Sochaczewski. I'm sorry to Sochaczewski. I tried really hard last night to pronounce it, but so tonight, this morning we are going to have a seminar. This is about Wallace actually, but we are a little bit story about Ali. Ali is a companion of Wallace. Is accompanying Wallace for his journey to so many different places, and I got the book here by Paul. Look here, sir, what a curious bird. And that book is actually already an Amazon best-selling author of a conservation notebook. So this tell you, and then I've seen this book using PDF or the thing that we can access in the internet, but it's very limited. I think it's only about 11 pages that we can open. But this is the book that's about the inordinate fondness of beetles, also telling about how the life of Wallace when he was in Malay archipelagos. It's amazing. By looking now, I have a chance to read through the whole book, not only the 11 pages that are available in Amazon or in any other publisher. So I encourage you, if you want to buy it, this is a very good book. I haven't seen this book yet, but looks like it's very curious. That's why we are going to have a seminar today. And the seminar is going to be very interactive. So Paul, every now and then, will ask if anybody would like to say something. You can hear or make a note in Zoom or people who is attending here. And in YouTube, you may make a comment if you want to ask anything. And unfortunately, in YouTube, you have to read. But in Zoom, you can say your opinion or your questions straight away. So we are very relaxed. The format here is not very formal. So anytime you can ask questions, raise hand and ask questions, so that we can have a very productive conversation during the seminars. The seminar is run by Program Studi Kehutanan Unsrat and Wallace Conservation Likupang. Organization in Unsrat, and we are in support of international office in Unsrat. Wallace Conservation Likupang is a new organization coming to do conservation in broad sense, applications and also education of conservation in the region and further throughout the globe. Wow. They would like to have people coming from all over the world to do research here and to educate people about conservation. So this is a very new organization, it's still coming. I think we have to report this. Who is going to report this? maybe the operator, the panitia may record it because the record button is disappearing in my record in the computer. So this is about the housekeeping first. Make sure that everything is running. So panitia is now recording. Yeah. So you let everybody know that it is recorded. And before we started the most important part of the seminar, I would like to make sure that everybody can access the audio. Volunteer.
You can make the picture full screen.
Can I have a volunteer saying that the voice is okay? But Samuel, Ibu Ellen, Billy. Okay, seems like we are okay with the audio. Okay, so I would like to ask Paul to have a seat here. Okay. He's going to be wander around to have people, interact with people, but at the moment you are being recorded. This is for maybe I believe that this presentation is going to be very, very useful for everybody to revisit again. Paul is actually a writer, writing instructor, conservationist, international non-governmental organization communication expert. He is currently residing in Geneva. Is it? Well, I just read from your website. You work over 80 countries all over the world, including extended stays in Indonesia, and in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. And I believe that you can speak bahasa Indonesia. Okay. I already introduced before that he wrote this one of the book that I would like to have, and now I have that. This inordinate fondness of Beatles, and I think a couple of books here that he wrote is already got this best-selling book. Yeah. And a short conversation here, actually Paul seems not aware of some of the book that I think have been mentioned as a bestseller book. And I got a very, very positive comment from many different people about the books. Okay, today we are going to have these special presentation seminars about the book is actually displayed here, yeah? You know it? Now I give the floor to Paul, please.
morning. Everybody okay? Why does one man love Beatles? Strange, no? Let's have a look at Wallace and see why he was such an interesting and important character in the history of natural history in Indonesia. Okay, this is the 200th birthday year of Wallace. So happy birthday to Wallace. And this is a good time to look back at what he achieved, but also to look forward. Use the history to look forward and see what it means for conservation today. There's two parts. One is the hero's journey, and one part is the search for Ali. How many of you have this book, The Malay Archipelago? Yes, yes. Please go and look at this book. It's also available in Bahasa. This is the story of Wallace's journey through what is now Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Timor-Leste. Let's look at the hero's journey. Now, that's a funny word, isn't it? The hero's journey. But if you read Joseph Campbell, you'll see that the hero's journey is what all the great mythological and historical figures go through. It's also what you go through. Each of us is on a hero's journey. Some of these great heroes you recognize, Kartini, Gandhi, Luke Skywalker, they're all on hero's journeys because the dynamics are the same. Now, Wallace was self-educated. He left school at the age of 13. He had big problems, like all heroes do. He had a passion, and he was a humanist. I said he left school at the age of 13, but he nevertheless wrote 21 books and hundreds of academic papers. And look at all the different things he was interested in. Not just biology, but conservation. He was interested in spiritualism and speaking to mediums. That's a different presentation. But he spent a lot. And this picture up on the right is what turned out to be a fake photograph of Wallace with a ghost he thought was his mother. But he was a campaigner. He was a very active campaigner against vivisection, gambling, foreign aid, junk food, child labor, and he was in favor of women's rights, food and drug controls, and so on. So he was a big man in the sense of having lots and lots of ideas. Wallace also developed, while he was in Halmahera and Ternate, the theory of evolution by natural selection. That's a long story, you may know it, but that's probably his biggest accomplishment. Charles Darwin got much of the credit. We can talk about how Wallace influenced Darwin. I like the idea that Wallace wrote about the passion he felt when he found new species. Not every Victorian explorer was willing to expose himself like that. But Wallace found a new butterfly or a new beetle, he said, I had a headache all day, couldn't sleep, it was so wonderful, it was so beautiful. And I like that about Wallace. And I hope that kind of passion for your work. England in that time had terrible pollution. Charles Dickens wrote about the pollution. And Wallace was an early conservationist. This is what he said. Oops. He blamed the industrialists, the courts, politicians, and scientists, and said pure air and water should be the right of everybody in Britain. Now, you think about that. The same thing happens today, right? We have pollution, we have conservation problems, we have human rights problems. What would Wallace think today? Probably he would be joining all of us in protesting against the industrialists, the courts, and the politicians, and even the scientists. He collected things, but he was also very interested in the idea that some things were not made only for man. Some things had a right to exist, and we should appreciate what is out there. Again, a very rather modern concept. Now, I say why boys leave home. I'm going to include girls, because when you reach your teenage years, there is a drive to explore. What does that mean? Well, you might leave home, you might go away to university, you might get married, you might have kids, you might join the army, you might choose a career. That's part of the hero's journey. And Wallace's hero's journey was when he was 25. What happened? Wallace had a friend named Henry Walter Bates in England. They went out collecting beetles together. And they said, let's go to the Amazon. Now you think about how stupid that was. Think about it. They had no money. They did not speak Portuguese. They had no contacts. They had never left England. They didn't have passports. They had no experience in natural history scholastically, but they wanted to collect natural history specimens and sell them in England. Completely mad, but they left home. And Wallace spent 4 years in the Amazon collecting things, and then tragedy. Wallace was on the boat coming home. The boat had most of his Amazon collection, thousands of new species. And one morning the captain knocks on the door of his cabin on the boat, says, "Excuse me, sir, we have a bit of a problem. The ship is on fire." Wallace was in the life for 10 days, almost died. The ship went down into the sea with his whole collection, and Wallace swore never to get on a boat again. Big point in somebody's life, right? Now, I'm asking you this question to test your memory. Quick, what did you have for lunch? Banana. You have a good memory. Wallace lost most of his notes and most of his collection, but still, he wrote 2 important books, Palm Trees of the Amazon and Travels on the Rio Negro. Now think about it. Without your notes, without your specimens, did you write a book about that? How's your memory? It's remarkable. And then Wallace had what I call a critical decision time. Now, in your lives, you have a critical decision, right? You have many decision times when you can go this way and you go this way. Or you can do nothing and somebody will push you this way. Wallace decided he wanted to go to Southeast Asia. He wrote to the Royal Geographical Society, and he asked for a grant to go to Southeast Asia. He wanted to visit Borneo, the Philippines, Mispil, Celebes, Timor, the Moluccas, and New Guinea. And he had 2 main objectives. He wanted to collect and study orangutans, and he wanted to collect and study Sochaczewski. What did he achieve in 8 years? He went 22,000 kilometers, about 100 different collecting expeditions. He traveled unofficially, and this is very important. Wallace had no government support. He had no money. He had no university support. He had no military support. So he had to do everything himself. And he collected many things, but especially he loved beetles. And these are some of the beetles from Wallace's cabinet. And he was fascinated by why are there so many different beetles, and the beautiful beetles. And that was one of the ideas that he thought about in developing the theory of evolution. And look at what he did. 900 new species of beetles, 200 new species of birds, and remarkably, 200 new species of ants. Now, I have a challenge for you. You go into your backyard or the park and just try to collect ants. Even here in tropical Sulawesi, how many ants would you get? The black one, the red one that bites? He found and collected hundreds of ants. And how does this man know the taxonomy to determine this is a new ant? Think about that. And he left school at 14. He didn't go to university to study ant taxonomy. You know Wallace for the Wallace line, of course. Sulawesi is in the middle of Wallacea. And he got his idea when traveling between Bali and Lombok. Because he said these islands are similar in size, they're next to each other, not far apart, but the birds are different. Why? That led him to the idea of the Wallace line. And you know very well what the Wallace line means. On the west side, you've got the big, prominent mammals, elephants and tigers, other primates. Here in Wallacea, you've got really strange things, like babirusa, moas, and so on. And on the east, you've got the marsupials, Sochaczewski, cassowarids. And also, Wallace was also interested in people. And he thought there's a difference in people as you go from west to east. And he collected language vocabularies. Now, when he was in Sulawesi, you could say he was interested in three things: getting ideas for the theory of evolution, getting collections because he made his money by collecting wildlife and selling it in England, and sightseeing. And this is where he went in North Sulawesi. This is quite a tour when he was up in North Sulawesi for only about 3 months. A picture of that. And it's all in that book, by the way. And that spelling, if I made a mistake, it's not me, it's Wallace. So he traveled all around North Sulawesi. We'll come to South Sulawesi in a moment. And this is what he observed. His travel book, the Malay Archipelago, is also about people and the experiences he had. He thought people were beautiful here. Don't thank me, you can thank Wallace. And he thought they were very smart. And it's interesting that Wallace was not only studying wildlife, he was studying people. He was studying culture. He was studying languages. He was studying anthropology. Why was this such a great place? Well, we could have a long discussion about colonialism. And Wallace did. He spent many pages talking about the Dutch influence on Indonesia. Even just for that, it's worth reading the book. He said that the introduction of coffee in 1821 changed the society and gave people the chance to study and become more organized and get out of the kampongs and do different kinds of work. And he thought Manado was a wonderful place. One of the prettiest towns in the East. He really liked it up here. And in fact, he liked all of Sulawesi. Then he went sightseeing. He went to Tandano. Both sight and sounds are grand. And he went twice to South Sulawesi. Rasa and then Mamajan and Maros. It's not my spelling, it's Wallace's spelling. He wrote about Makassar, first Dutch town I visited, and I found it prettier and cleaner than I had yet seen in the East. That's a big statement. He liked it. He was happy there. And, okay, why do we have this slide? He wrote that wherever he went, I excited terror in man and beast. So children screamed and women ran away as though I was some strange and terrible cannibal monster. Even buffaloes would rush away as if a demon were after them. So Wallace was a sensitive guy. He wasn't a big, aggressive, colonial. He had feelings. So he would walk down the village, and people would run away and scream. So he was hurt by that. He didn't really know how to react. But he wrote about it. Again, he went sightseeing, and in Maros, he collected butterflies. And he wrote a lot about the karst geology of South Sulawesi. And he wrote about all the great, interesting things you find in Sulawesi. And he spends many pages talking about the Babirusa and the Anoa and the Maleo and so on. Yes, but not for Wallace. He called it sapi hutan. Of course, it's not the same as the babi hutan, but Wallace didn't know it was, he knew it was special, but he called it sapi hutan, but it's the Anoa that he was referring to.
But in the he said sapi hutan, Anoa.
Yes, he wrote it, I think he wrote it in brackets, Anoa. Okay, here's one of the butterflies that I trembled with excitement. And this is Ornithoptera croesus from Sulawesi. And he wrote, the individuality of the insects is even greater than we have any reason to expect. And that got him thinking about why is Sulawesi so special? Because he was seeing things he had never seen before. He was seeing things he didn't expect to see. He was seeing things that were not from West Java, West Indonesia. He was seeing things that were not from East Indonesia. This is a special place. And he loved collecting butterflies. He called this his finest discovery. And he only found it once, a tiger beetle. And he wrote pages and pages about the birds. He's fascinated by the birds. And you would very well know that Sulawesi has a great diversity of bird life. Yes, in Kupang, yes. I don't talk about Kupang or Timor, but Likupang. Yeah. Black birds or bats? Birds. New species of hornbill. The Sulawesi dwarf cuscus. And he said this is the most westerly of all marsupials. The striped-faced fruit bat. And this is what he said about Sulawesi. He said, poor in the number of species, but wonderfully rich in peculiar forms. They're so remarkable, no close allies in any other part of the world. And he said it's one of the most isolated portions in terms of biodiversity, even though it's at the very center of the archipelago. And there's the absence of wildlife groups found on the west and the east. And then he had this idea, change of species is a matter of time.
And that's
It's a relationship with I asked you before, would Wallace be a conservationist if he was here today? What do you think? Because Sulawesi faces, like all of Indonesia, has a lot of good things going, a lot of good conservation, a lot of respect, a lot of education, a lot of good laws, but there are a lot of problems. And this is just one of the problems in Sulawesi now, which you know better than I do, about nickel mining and so on. What would Wallace have said about that? Would he be active? Would he try to come up with a solution? Would he work in the government, or would he be against the government? Who knows? But I just remind you what he said about the politics and the industrialists in England in 1850. Now let's look for Ali. You're familiar with Ali or not? No.
I thought Ali was here.
Lying on. 1856, Wallace was in Sarawak, staying at a cottage. James Brooke was the first white Raja of Borneo. Wonderful story. Have a look at his history. He hired a young Malay boy, 15 years old, to be his cook and to teach him Malay. His name was Ali. Ali stayed with him for 6 years, and the point I make in my book is that Wallace would not have been as successful without Ali. This is a statue of Ali and Wallace in Singapore. Ali became the camp manager. He became very responsible for a young man. And he became an expert bird collector, which means shooting birds, and skinner, taxidermy. He was really good. And Ali collected about 5,000 of Wallace's 8,000 birds. Think about that. First of all, 8,000 birds is a lot of birds, no? Of all kinds, everything from hornbills to Maleo, Cendrawasih, to Salaries. And The most famous bird was Semioptera wallacea, Wallace's standard wing, which Ali caught in Bachan. No, let's just go back a moment. The book is called Look Here, Sir, What a Curious Bird. Now, this is what Ali said to Wallace when he came back to camp. He probably said it in Malay, who knows. This curious bird turned out to be the only new Cendrawassi that Wallace collected, caught by Ali. Then we have the question of where did Ali go after Wallace left? Wallace left in 1862, and then what? There's some evidence that Ali spent some time in Kuching, but there's better evidence that Ali went to Ternate. The evidence for Kuching, these two young Englishmen, the Boyle brothers, hired a boatman and camp manager they called Ali Kasut. Why Ali Kasut? Because Ali went around everywhere wearing black leather English shoes, which is really a silly thing to do if you're a boatman in the tropics. But Ali loved to dress up. This is the only picture we have of Ali. And he had a photographer take his picture in Singapore, and he dressed up like a gentleman, what he thought an English gentleman was. Is it the same Ali? I think so. For me, the proof is that this man on the left, Thomas Barber, who was head of the Harvard Natural History Museum, was in Ternate collecting in 1907, and he's walking down the street with all this collecting stuff. And an old wizened Malay man approached him, and they started talking about a very obscure lizard. Well, not very many people in Ternate, old Malay men, would know anything about a lizard. And Barber said, "What's your name?" And the guy says, "My name is Ali Wallace." And the picture on the right, I had my graphic designer imagine what Ali might look like at the age of 67. Yeah, it's possible. It's imagined. But who knows? Just for fun. I don't know, do you think it's a good picture? And Ali would have been about 67, which is old but possible. And then I wrote this book, and I've been looking for Ali's descendants in Ternate for many years with no success at all. No. And I've spoken to university groups, I've spoken to journalists. I was hoping that a clever student would do it as a master's thesis. Maybe that's something for you to consider. Find this keturunan of Ali who may be in Ternate, Halmahera, North Maluku, I don't know. Because if we can find this keturunan, that person can say, my great grandfather Ali was interested in conservation. He worked with Wallace and use that person, work with that person as a spokesman for conservation.
I would suspect it's that below of the house there, it will be the house that the internet,
Or the house is gone.
oh yeah, but they name Ronald Wallace or something like that.
Yeah. Of course, and we don't know Ali's patronym. We don't know Ali's father's name. In Sarawak, he would have been Ali bin somebody. We don't know. Nobody ever wrote down Ali's full name. But I'm very interested in your help if you can think of ways to find the Keturunan. I think we would make a very nice master's thesis for somebody in the Department of maybe history or. And I'm asking you this question, who is your Ali? Now, everybody here has had help. You're now at a good position. You had help from different people, and sometimes people who you don't always remember or thank properly. Somebody who opened the door for you, gave you a little push. And I'm interested in helping people to understand who is my Ali, who is your Ali. And you are Ali to somebody else. You've all helped people as well. When Wallace died, he was very well respected. The dean of the world scientists, one of the two most influential figures of the 19th century. David Attenborough said, there's no more admirable character in the history of science. So thank you. Happy birthday, Alfred. And thank you for your attention and continue your good work.
Wow, thank you so much. This is very informative that we have a story of Wallace a little bit, and then also story of Ali. I think maybe some of the people attending also Zoom or YouTube would have an idea or opinion or ask questions, anything, or people from here, maybe you can start asking questions. Please. Yes.
Thank you, and thank you, Paul, for the refreshing presentation about a very important topic in science, actually, but also in culture of this island. Yeah, my name is Martina. I'm from Forestry Study Program. Yeah, I was just wondering actually where did Alfred Wallace get all the resources, considering he hasn't got any support from any parts, from any foundations or universities. And the second question is, when he was given the Nobel, like Sir, began Sir from the beginning, was it after the journey or before? Because if it's before, then he got all the resources he needed for the journey. Yeah, I was just wondering. Thank you. What's your opinion about that?
Wallace and Bates, before they went to the Amazon, they knew they needed an agent in London to sell their specimens. At that time, it was very popular in Europe to have natural history collections with private individuals. And they found a man named Samuel Stevens. Now, Samuel Stevens was a very good agent, and he sold everything that Wallace collected. And that's why Wallace's collection is not in one place. You can find it in different museums in Europe, in different private collections, and it's spread out. Wallace lived by sending a collection of beetles or ants or birds back to Samuel Stevens, and Stevens would send him money, and the Dutch postal system and banking system was actually quite good back then, and Wallace would get the money and be able to live. It's as simple as that. He needed an agent, and he had a good one. And did you mention noble family, or?
Actually, he was given a title, sir, but by the queen maybe.
Okay, don't be misled. Ali was calling Wallace sir. He probably said, Tengo begitu Tuan. He's probably calling him Tuan. And Wallace was offered a knightship. He refused it. He refused all honors because he didn't like the idea of being a knight. He was rather humble.
Thank you. So it's not so it's just from Ali, the sir. Yeah.
Just being polite.
Okay, thank you very much. Sir.
Okay. Is there anyone from Zoom or YouTube would like to add questions? Oh, silakan, Dea.
Hello. Hi, I'm
Hello.
Dea.
Okay.
A couple of comments and a question. First of all, I love that illustration that you have with the closing slide there. It really describes Wallace well, I feel. And then my second comment was just hearing about Wallace dropping out, or rather finishing school at 14 and then going on to explore the world. Is that not like the dream of a lot of youth these days, just and travel? So thank you for being very relatable with that piece of information. My question is about the, I'm just curious if there are perhaps other notes from other people that Wallace traveled with, or like letters. Maybe he worked with people when he was in Malaysia or Ternate or here that maybe mentioned something about Ali, or like what other sources of information were there? Oh yeah.
Very few. The most of the information comes from this book, where Wallace talks about Ali 42 different times. Now, if you think about that, that's a lot of visibility for a Western explorer to give to his local assistant at that time. Even today, quite often, you'll read reports about Western naturalists collecting a new thing, and they say, and our guide showed us something. And it was the guide who found the thing. And relatively infrequently does the guy say, our guide, whose name was so-and-so, knew where to go and showed us how to do this. Wallace was very good about giving credit. Wallace had, he counted more than 1,000 helpers at different stages. Of course, if he's going to have to build a boat and find boatmen and then move his camp and build a camp and go collecting, that's going to take a lot of people. Wallace could not do it by himself. But number one was Ali. Now, other people writing about it. James Brooke, the White Raja of Borneo, had a private secretary named Spencer St. John, who later became the British ambassador to Brunei. St. John wrote his own book, and he wrote several times about his cook named Ali, and what a good cook he was and how reliable and all that stuff. We know that St. John and Wallace and were at James Brooks' house in Kuching one Christmas together. After that time, St. John stops writing about Ali and starts talking about Achuan, a Chinese cookie hire. And after that time, Wallace starts saying, I hired a young Malay boy. I think that they did a trade. That St. John stopped hiring Wallace took him on for helper. Why? Why would St. John let him go? It may be that Ali was associated with one of the noble families in Sarawak, and that because St. John was going to Brunei, there were a lot of fights between the royal families, and Ali would have been in danger if he went to Brunei. That we don't know. That's speculation. So it may be that Ali worked for St. John before he came to Wallace, and that would have been a lowering status. St. John had the power of the Roger James Brooke. St. John had military support. He had money. Wallace was poor. He had no money. He dressed in funny clothes. He had a big beard. He had to do everything himself. So that was a decision point for Ali. He needed a job, I guess. Does he go with this funny Englishman who probably spoke Malay with a rather strong accent? What does he do? And maybe he said, okay, this guy's okay, I'll try and go with him for a while. But quick answer to your question is really there's no other documentation about Ali except for Thomas Faber.
Well, in the Zoom, people explain about Hans not boom in National Rebellion Leiden, and that person, programming 60s and so on, is grandchildren of Hans. Have you ever heard that name?
Hans Notenboom, this is very interesting. Thank you for
Muhammad Iqbal.
Thank you, Muhammad, for writing this. I was on an European expedition in 1993 to Pulau Aru and Hans was on that expedition. But I haven't been in touch with him, and I never discussed this with Hans, and I didn't know that. And if, Mohammed, if you have Hans's contact, please send it to me, because I'd like to discuss this with him, because that would be very interesting.
Okay. This Ellen Manueke from Zoom also would like to ask question, please.
Oh yeah. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be in this meeting. I'm really interested in your topic about I think general thing is that you are looking for the descendant of Ali, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah, and also I like to ask about the real purpose of this talk. I just want to make sure that are you looking for the Ali descendants or new Alis in reality?
Well, I am looking for Ali's descendants, but if you have ideas of nominating somebody who is the new Ali. But my point, Ellen, was that in each of our lives, we have certain Alis ourselves, people who have helped us here and there, opened doors for us, made our lives easier, pushed us in some way. And I'd like us all to recognize those people as well. The idea of an Ali in whatever area you happen to be living in or working in. But yes, if you have nominations for a new Ali, that person maybe should rise higher and become the new Wallace.
Maybe.
Okay, my next question, if I still have the time, I'd like to ask about the disappearing of trees around this area. When I visited one of a small town in North Sulawesi, I was surprised that some trees were missing, and I was so sorry about that. But I realized that I have no power to let them stay. It just I don't know, maybe a powerful someone who has power order to cut the trees, make some other stuff. So do you think what should we do as people? I mean, we don't have we are just what can I say? We are can be categorized as general people who have no other politic relation or political link. How can we help the nature to be to stand good as before? Do you get what I mean?
Okay, thank you very much. I have some thoughts, and then I'm going to give the microphone to Professor John, who might have more intelligent comments. First of all, you are working in science. You all have first-hand knowledge on the field. You know what's going on. You know what's there, what isn't there. And the fact that scientists are interested in this is important. Secondly, Indonesia is an active democracy. You vote. You vote at the local level and you vote at the national level. I'm not trying to talk politics here, but you can ask candidates for different offices about conservation problems and what they want to do about it. Third, Professor John and all of you are involved in developing this very interesting and powerful conservation program in Likupang. And the fact that North Sulawesi was chosen for that says a lot about your power, the respect that other people have for you. And perhaps I'll pass the mic to you, Professor John. You could talk about how the conservation program in the area will be active in promoting conservation.
Okay. Well, it's the same. I wouldn't represent anyone. I didn't represent anyone, but in my opinion, even our society, in academic society, sometimes is a government policy, undang-undang, peraturan pemerintah, and so on. And that's the government policy. I think we should try from now on not using government policy as a reference of academic standards. So this is very general opinion of mine, but I think if we use government's law to base our scientific opinion, and that's going to be following what the government wants us to do. I'm not rebelling against the government because some of the program is very good. Then we have to make it as it is not a reference, but it is a comparison that this is the government policy, and this is what we are going to study about anything, especially about conservation. So that's what I believe. But now in North Sulawesi, the Likupang, KIK Likupang, Special Economic Zone, Likupang Special Economic started a research center or research center with research purposes. We call it WCL, Wallace Conservation Likupang, and using the word that Wallace used for Likupang, the very old word for the Likupang. And Agung was here, he's the one who is in charge with that. The big goals of this organization is, well, to be the purpose of biodiversity conservation in the area. Would like to be the center for research and education to people and anyone who would like to gain knowledge on conservation and especially the natural history of this area. The consumption would be global. Hopefully, it's going to be a global laboratory for biodiversity conservation. Well, this is a very big ambition, but talking with people in KIK and the company that is running the KIK, they have these very big ambitions that in the future, maybe, I don't know how near is it, thinking about 20 years or so, that we will have this museum of natural history with a very modern approach of education. What I mean approach, actually now it's happening. When we're talking about it, the AI is not even finalized now, but I think the AI is going to be the one that is to be considered. Again, anything you want to say? Okay, now
Hello,
we
Pak John.
thank
Can I
you,
say
Alan.
Yeah. Is it all right to? Hello? Hello? Oh yeah.
Not from biology department. Previously, I managed PPT Research Study Biotechnology and Conservation of Malaysia in here at University of Sarawak. The Center of Malaysia already our campus already has organization. We are trying to make research about Malaysia. But I'm interested in conclusion of Wallace. In 18, he already know that diversity in Wallace area poor number, yes, poor in number, but rich in forms. In 18th, Wallace already know about that, and I think he's quite what is that? Seriously think about that because the number is quite not too much, but forms, I mean, diversity is quite high in Wallace region. Based on my research in several areas in Minahasa, it's very difficult to find virgin forest here because of illegal nitrate and unclean. What's your opinion about how we can do to avoid the someday we will lose some of the species because of the trade. What do you think about? Maybe you have opinion what we should do to avoid about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would turn it around to all of you. What should you do in Minahasa? And believe me, Minahasa is not the only place in the world where you have this problem. don't underestimate what we call urban biodiversity. There's a chapter in my book about biodiversity in Singapore. And you think Singapore is so developed. Singapore has a very high biodiversity and new species are always coming up. So it's possible to have, you don't have to have big forests. You can have biodiversity in smaller places as well. You can do rewilding if you have ownership of land. You can do backyard biodiversity in parks, where you don't just plant ornamentals, you plant native species, and so on. There's a lot of things you can do. It takes effort, and it takes this is really where grassroots efforts come in. But again, I asked you you mentioned Minahasa as an example. What should you do? I don't have the answer. I don't live here. You know the situation, you know the politics, you know industry, you know that the government has to make some money, you know that business has to make some money, you know that rich people make too much money. What should you do?
Yeah, I think, well, I'll leave it that way, but I think someone would like to say something. Pak Seni Murna from Universitas di Ambon, Patimura. Bagaimana Pak Seni? Oh, tadi Pak Seni sudah bersuara. Mungkin putus hubungannya. Well, I know Semi, so since a long time ago, we were in Canada at the same time. He was in, and I forgot, I think in his Guelph or Toronto, and he took his PhD there, but he's good in playing saxophone as a part-time musician, I think. Okay, I think he lost the connection maybe. Pak Muhammad Iqbal, you want to say anything? Yeah. Atau masih mute ininya Pak? Masih mute, boleh di on Pak?
Yeah, I was in Leiden back in 2005, and at that time we have a celebration for Alfred Russel Wallace, and at that time we had Hans Notteboom as the star because, well, he said that he was descendant of Alfred Russel Wallace. Perhaps Wallace has a daughter, maybe one of his daughter married a Dutch guy. That's why then Hans related to Wallace.
Okay, great. It's actually,
but unfortunately, he was passed away last year.
Oh, he passed away last week. Oh, okay, you wrote it here. So, Hans died last year. We have a colleague here, I think Lynn Clayton, is actually village as Wallace, but we're still looking for Ali. Maybe Pak Samuel Leonuvna have a story about Wallace.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. I just want to add some other things. Yeah. But next.
Okay, putus-putus ya. Pak Semi di PSL ini, PSL Unpati. Yeah, the network is not very good.
What we are talking
Okay.
about. Pak Prof.
All right. Yeah, I think the connection is not good. In
Well, listen, first of all, if you want to talk to me in the future, you have my email, happy to talk. And secondly, I
Yeah.
hope, I hope, yes, sir, go on.
it's disappeared
You
again.
know, the line is not good. But the most important takeaway, I think, is Wallace was important in history. Don't look at him just as the past. Use Wallace as a
Thank you.
look forward.
Wallace was also in.
Yeah. Pak Samuel,
Ya.
mungkin
Ya,
putus-putus suara dari tadi, belum jelas masuk. Dari pintu kota atau di kampus ini? Hari apa ini? Hari Senin. Yeah, sorry, but the connection is not very good. We cannot hear you clearly. Right. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
sorry, Pak Semi, we cannot hear you clearly.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Now your picture is on. Okay, that's a difficulty for online connection. On and off.
Thank you. Thank you that I followed the discussion, and also I've heard the
Okay. Prof. Sam, kita now our system resource, the computer resource, not the connection. Connection is okay in campus. All right. I think we have to come to our conclusion here. You catch your Ternate. Hopefully there's more information about Ali in Ternate when you arrive there. I think actually we got I cannot. He was here also, docent in Ternate here.
Is he in Ternate now?
Yeah, it's
Can you give me his contact? I will see him in Ternate.
okay. Well, I'll see if he was a graduate student from here, and he went to teaching Ternate.
Well, I would like to meet him in Ternate.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try to see if the number is still the same. Well, it's Facebook. Yeah, you can.
Yes.
Yeah. So the seminar today is actually telling us that there's so many important things that's happening during Wallace time, and makes Sulawesi a special place. It's actually a lab for biodiversity conservation. Back then it's not conservation, but then back then it's a biogeographical significance of global sense, I think. And people can learn about the spread of species or the evolution of species from one place to another place with an easy observation. So that it is very valuable that the government actually should think something even bigger or a policy that can preserve this significance. I believe this is hopefully that you are telling about the politician. Maybe we can see who is going to guarantee that this is going to happen, and that sense going to be immediately happening. But hopefully there is something that can touch the sense of the people, that we need to do something with our nature, the resources, the natural resources that we have, from the bottom of the sea up to the top of the mountains, that we supposed to preserve that for the knowledge or even the sustain of life on earth. Now, next time maybe we are going to talk more about anything else, more detail about what we are looking today, then I think it is very valuable for us to do it again. Next time, because we know you, if you have an idea of something we can do online and make it even better recording. You want to repeat that?
Thank you. Yeah, just my closing thoughts. I like Wallace. Wallace was, in a way, my mentor, my hero. I thought he was a terrific man. But let's not look back. Let's use Wallace as an inspiration to look forward. Ask yourself, if Wallace came back today, what would he find? Would he be happy? Would he be sad? Would he be active? And you have one of the world's most interesting, diverse, rich places on earth. And if Wallace and if I can help you to push forward, then I think we're very happy to do that. So use Wallace as a symbol, use Ali as a symbol, and try to get some energy from them to go forward.
Okay, thank you. Please give your hand, give applause to Wallace. Thank you for your time. I really said, as a closing one, Billy Loloa, I know some researchers, scientists that had great field assistants, but sometimes on their publication, these field assistants are not even credited for their contribution. Just like Ali, until we realize that how precious Ali in helping Wallace on the field. Thank you. Okay. We are going to take a picture together. It's a ritual that we have now. Please, oh, I should say thank you for people who is attending in Zoom and YouTube. Because of technicality, I cannot assess all the time, but I believe in the YouTube people will follow that as well. Maybe they have opinions, but we have not time to. Yeah, please. We are going to have the Zoom remains there, but people also is going to capture you. And oh yeah, another thing, if you want to have a certificate on anything, please fill up the form that is available in the internet. The internet is just only sl.pringsat.ac.id/ali, and it's available in Undangan.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, now we are going to have a peek. This side.
Boleh masuk dorong sedikit ini langsung.
Kiri kanan.
Peserta, so thank you very much. Coba foto. Orang nggak ada absen. Hai.
Scroll ke atas, Lay, di chat.
Hah? Nggak ada.
Ada.
Kita sebelum masuk, kirim akang ulang, Pak.
Tadi Dang John udah bilang,
Ya,
DP link John udah bilang.
Ya enggak, ya ada Pak kita.
Nggak dengar?
Iya.
Tunggu kita copy link.
Oke. Sebelum dong saya mati.
Mer, lihat di chat, Mer.
Sudah
Dia di chat,
ya?
Mer. Itu Dang Meiso kirim.
Mana?
Ada di chat. Barusan Meis kirim. Meis
Sudah kirim itu ini.
Untuk kehadiran dan sebagai yang memerlukan tuh.
Ya. Itu yang
Itu,
memerlukan.
Lei.
Itu Lei isi. Yang memerlukan itu.
Belum tam.
Mana so? Belum. No. Cuma ada tuh Meis sudah kirim tuh ini.
Itu Lady.
Itu
Klik
sekarang.
itu. Klik. Nanti kena isi.
Kondong.
Klik di situ.
Itu yang
Isi.
SL Unsrat